So this was Prince's tour. Prince was always a famous guy for supporting jazz music and black jazz music. So he commissioned an artist, famous art, Motown type artist, to paint this about the history of jazz. So it was not your normal show poster. It was the artistic posters that Prince paid to have.
He doesn't even have his name on it.
No, I know. You wouldn't even know it was from the Prince tour
Prince if someone
unless
showed me
you
that.
bought it at the tour. And it doesn't even say it down there.
No, nothing.
On the back,
That's
I think
very
it said
strange.
about Prince.
I've never seen this poster before.
Yeah. All right. Queen 2014.
Now, this went to all the VIPs, and they had about at least 1,000 VIPs
But they
in
got
every
numbers
city.
here.
Yeah, they numbered.
They only made 7,000.
Only 7,000. To a memorabilia dealer like me, 7,000 isn't limited. That's a number.
Right.
But limited is 50 or 100 or 200. You get to 7,000 of something like this, a tour program. Now, there's a bunch of these that aren't numbered as well, but 7,000's a lot to put out there. We bought a pile of tickets for this tour, and
Right.
I don't know how many of these got. I think you got a blanket with it, and there was a whole little kit you got. But it's a big size. It's like some of the programs you showed further that are larger,
Right.
maybe 18 inches high.
Right.
It's a great great poster in the program, but because there were so many made, I don't think it's worth quite as much. But
Right.
it might be $100.
Okay, so let's go. Good Pink Floyd tour. This one was a great tour. This is when Roger Waters decided to honor the Dark Side of the Moon album. So that's why you see that in the lines. And he says Dark Side of the Moon. So when he did this tour, he just played the whole album beginning to end. And then the encore was some of his other hits. So, and this is a 3D poster that Roger Waters did, Us and Them concert tour. Sort of like the Cher 3D. It looks really well done. The graphics here doesn't give it the credibility it has, but it's a good 3D
Anything
poster.
Floyd, Waters, David Gilmour,
Yeah.
it's quite collectible. So they're probably all started at $100, but depending on the scarcity, it could be worth a lot more.
Right. Well, those were limited because they had an extra poster to sell, and then they sold this 3D poster, which always costs twice as much. All right. And the Stones.
Bigger Bang, that's my hat. I'm wearing the Bigger Bang hat.
Right. And this was a really good tour. And I don't know how much this poster is worth, but it has the tour dates of all the places.
It's funny
they played.
because this tour, so what happened was, I remember I joined the Rolling Stones fan club. And so we got a notice that they always, or most tours in the last 30 years, they typically rehearse in Toronto.
Right.
And then go out on the tour. And they always do a thank you to the city, which is a small club gig somewhere.
Right.
And so they were playing the Phoenix for this tour. And they had sent a note out and said, tomorrow we're going to invite 30, 40 people, which is where I got the hat and they had posters there, to their private club gig tomorrow. You'll find out tomorrow morning. Well, Rolling Stone fan club members are all over the world.
Right.
And so ends up, I'm thinking, well, who knows? You never know. And sure enough, I got a phone call the next morning, and they go, do you know who this is? I'm saying, Rolling Stones fan club. Say, how did you know that? I said, I don't know. Who else would be calling me this time in the morning? But the strange part was they had to keep phoning people. They'd phone and they'd say, well, I live in India. I can't get to Toronto for 2 days. Like,
Right.
the show was that night, and you had to go immediately to the Stones Hotel, where
Right.
you picked up the Four Seasons, you picked up the passes, and it was amazing. But they had this poster there. But it predates the first date in the tour, because this
Right.
would have been like 2 days before
The tour
the
started.
first date. And they finally did give away all 30, but they kept phoning people to. I met actually a couple people that flew in from the States, just rushed to an airport and immediately got there. But it was it was a very popular tour, the Bigger Bang tour.
Yeah.
And they had different types. This is the most iconic poster, along with the hat I'm wearing.
Yeah.
It was that's the official Bigger Bang. It's like blowing up the tongue type of thing, or lips
So
and tongue.
what do you think that poster's worth?
It looks to be in really nice shape. It's probably worth a couple $100.
All right. And that's their 223 tour, Licks tour, but
Yeah.
it was a good poster because it shows their tongues big out, because that's the symbol of the Rolling Stones.
Right.
$80 maybe?
Yeah, probably something like that.
All right. And Roxy Music is more of a classic poster of Roxy Music.
They were very artistic the
Yeah.
way they were on stage, so the poster looks similar to that.
And not many posters of Roxy Music because they never really toured that much.
No. They come every few years, but it's a cult following. The people that like them really love Roxy Music, but it's an artistic show the way they put it on.
What do you give that poster value?
Again, I can't tell the size on some of these, but typical posters like 24 by 30, that's a standard size. Then you get the smaller ones. But people will pay, even though a lot of people don't have space for things. A bigger poster is usually worth a little bit more money, but that's probably a $100 poster.
Okay. And our buddies, the Rush.
Vapor Trails, too.
Vapor Trails. Good poster with the circles and all the pictures of the band and their lighting.
I don't think they've reprinted the posters like they did the programs, which is good. So it probably keeps the value up more on the posters. So again, it might be $100 for that. I mean, with Neil Peart gone, there isn't going to be any more. So I think Rush may come out again. I know they played at the benefit for the Foo Fighters drummer. So there's a chance they'll come out with a new drummer, perhaps. But these will always be worth more because it's the original lineup.
All right. I think I have another one. Okay. Santana. Now, Santana, and I think I have a couple of them, he always made the best posters. Just like his T-shirts. As you can see, all these Santana posters,
very
really
colorful.
Good, colorful posters. And he was smart, too. He didn't make them big, so you could hang them up in your room and stuff. Because Santana
it's almost a throwback to the old Avalon Ballroom. That's how the printing was on those various posters back in the day. And Bill Graham, a lot of the artwork he got done for the posters were the style. He's kept the same style the whole time, Santana.
Yeah, all three of his posters. So that's venue posters now. Cause
the venue would be better. I mean, that's a one. Now, the bands are starting to do this now. It was very rare to have it done before. But now, the Stones, the last tour, they put a poster out. Not many for each place, but they do put some out. But if you go back far enough, these were only made to advertise at the venue or something. So they're very rare. But that's, probably $50 to $75 for a poster like that. That one's a little cooler looking.
Right.
And it's got multiple dates on it. So that might be $100.
Now, these posters, I'm just going to bring you the little stuff on it because Santana always made really, really, really good posters. And the two different posters that Santana made, I had them framed actually, but you can see that he always had a good artist. Just like his other Santana posters, he made them with the Indian Medicine Man and Indian Shift poster with really good graphics from some type of shaman artist. And then this one here, which, first of all, what do you think that one's worth?
Maybe $100. The problem is getting posters framed. I know you do it because you want to display them. Framing is not good if you're ever going to resell. Because first of all, when they're framed, nobody knows if it's original. You could be hiding things that could say copy or whatever. So almost everything we buy that's valuable, we have to take out a frame. We throw all the frames in the garbage. And the people say, I spent $300 on framing. It's like, well, we paid you $500 for it. We paid $0 for framing. That's all going in the garbage. So you want to keep things, if you're ever thinking you might sell them, just put them in the soft top loaders or you get some dry mounted like that. It's much cheaper. It's lighter, takes less space. But framing, you'll never get your value in framing. The poster's worth what it's worth. No matter how nicely it's framed, it's still worth what the poster's worth.
And here's one of his other frame posters where he does the power of music and the sound of music and notes. Because Santana always had that spiritual lotus symbols in his kind of music.
The other thing is, too, when somebody buys a poster, they often remember they were at that show. They want to put their ticket with the poster. If it's already framed, you can't do any of that.
Right.
Sometimes it might be going somewhere. Maybe there's a book release where, Carlos Santana's doing a book, and you can go get the poster signed. Well, it's in a frame. I've seen some people actually get the glass signed of the frame, which is one of the stupidest things, primarily because if it gets touched at all,
it's ruined.
It comes right off. So
see if I have the next poster there. Yeah, so
that's a really
better
cool
to have
looking
posters like that than the other ones. All right. But you can see Santana, even in his passes and his T-shirts, were always colorful. All right. And that's that other one I just showed you. What do you think that one's worth?
Again, maybe $100, but, that's the one you have framed there.
Right.
And if it was in a gallery like that and somebody came in and actually wanted it framed like that, yes, they would pay $250, $300.
Right.
But the odds of finding that customer
Right.
is much rarer than just putting a poster up as is and selling it to people that want to do what they want to do. Maybe they don't use that type of framing, or maybe they don't want them framed.
Right.
Who knows what they're doing? But
Okay.
framing does not add the value. We're only talking about the poster value.
All right. Sting's poster with his little Masonic sign.
And it's
but it says Massey,
Massey Hall,
so it
Toronto.
gives it some value.
So Massey Hall is a very famous venue. So people like tour posters from there, particularly if you have very old ones, like Neil Young's most famous album was recorded there. And but people still pay more. It was closed for a few years for a major renovation, but it still looks authentic to when it was built in the 1800s. And artists love playing there. When they come into Massey Hall, they go, "This is unbelievable, this place."
Right.
Like it's like one of those, like the Beacon in New York, these very famous venues.
And by it saying Massey Hall, local clubs, bars, and hotels like to have posters when they're near the venue to emphasize it. Like when I had a whole bunch of local Dylan posters from the local clubs, everyone wanted them in their bars.
Sure.
So what do you think this one's worth?
Again,
50 probably?
Yeah, $50 to $75. Sting isn't the most popular on his own. He has a following, but it's not like one of the like an Aerosmith poster where more people buy him.
Okay. My favorite Tom Petty poster because it looks...
It's like a wanted poster from the Old West.
Right. That's what made it well in demand and good looking. Yeah. And now that he's passed away, he's probably worth a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. All his stuff's went up in value. Autograph in particular, but posters, tour books, everything has went up. That's probably $100 poster as well.
Yeah, it's good graphics too. Like I said, it makes him look like a wanted cowboy poster, sort of like his Wilburys. My U2 poster, as we talked about before, but this one was good because it shows the octopus or whatever they called it with the beauty screen. And if you ever been to this show, it was the most amazing stage show because the staging just to set up was almost $1 million with all the crews, right? To just get the gear, the crane, the videos, the synchronicity of all the screens and stuff. So that's why it was an amazing tour, because every tour they needed to spend $1 million to get this stage all in gear and all the trucks.
So typically they'd have two stage setups because it would take so long to set up.
Right.
One would be knocked down while they're playing the next night, and then that stage would go to the next city.
Yeah, I think the Stones did that too sometimes, the multiple jumping.
And they will also have different, this was totally just stadiums, but if they have an arena and stadium, they might have an arena setup versus a stadium setup.
Okay. And then this was just a colorful U2 poster from one of their early shows.
I don't even remember that one.
And
Reunion Arena.
Yeah, I think it's in California, but I can't remember.
No, it's in Tennessee, I think, Reunion Arena.
Maybe, but it's a good colorful poster, and I've never seen it before.
No, I've never seen that.
So I picked it up.
$100 or more.
Yeah. And their pop tour, that isn't worth much because it's just like
but it is
record store thing. Or
it's
the
the
Giant
third
Stadium,
and final show when they added a third show.
Right. So it worth it.
$100.
Yeah. Now this one I like because it's Van Halen. And when you get good graphics of posters like this one, as you can see.
It's like the Titanic coming at you.
So when bands do graphic posters, they sell a lot more. If it was just, a picture of the band, but when it's graphics like this, the posters at the scenes sell out way more because people like the graphics.
Again, because it's recent, it probably isn't worth a lot. If that was like early 70s, it would probably be $300-$400, but it's a more recent tour.
15.
And I don't even think did they have the full lineup? No, probably David Lee Roth wasn't with them.
I don't know. David wasn't in this one, but
so the Van Halen stuff's worth a little more with David Lee Roth.
Right. And then, as you can see, I have that one too. It's a really good one because it's a limited Van Morrison tour in Canada, but it's got good graphics and the poster's really well printed with high glossy colors. So these posters, they always sell more than the ordinary poster.
Yeah, they're $150 for this, and it only it's just 2 dates, 3 dates, 2 in Toronto, and then a festival they did
in Ottawa. Yeah. So that's a very short, limited poster. Now our favorite band, The Who, lots of Who posters, but this was more like a history of The Who. So it was a early poster. I think
Like a fan club poster, maybe.
yeah, that you got. Up from the tour, though. I bought it at the stadium. Because that's pretty well, same with that one.
Right.
This typical of their
That's a
quadrophenia
quadrophenia
tour and stuff. So, and then there's the other who,
That's an unusual one.
yeah, early one. I think this was at Maple Leaf Gardens.
Oh, was it?
Because I've seen the
That
who
could be
many,
worth
many,
a
many,
few
many
$100,
times.
that
you know.
poster. I haven't seen that poster before.
All right, I think I got it. Our favorite guy, Willie Nelson. The reason I kept this poster is because Willie wasn't afraid to say he smokes pot and on his buses. In fact, I did a Willie Nelson show at Rock Hill Park, and the only way we could get Willie to come into Canada was we had to go down to the States, see him, and say, look at Willie, when you get to Buffalo, we book a hotel room, you dump all your pot there, and you dump all your Jack Daniels there, and come across the border, we'll have some pot for you on this side of the border and some Jack Daniels. And the reason Willie hated coming to Canada is in the early days he came to Canada when he got to customs, they took all his Jack Daniels because Jack Daniels was his sponsor and he had cases in his tour bus.
Right.
And they just took his cases out and then bugged him for smoke. And he said, I'm never coming to Canada again. And Willie didn't come to Canada for over 5 or 6 years until we finally talked him into coming by saying, look, you could just book you a hotel, leave your whiskey there, leave your pot there, and you can get fresh stuff on the other side of the border.
It'd be really easy now with legalization. Back then, you had to sort of do it discreetly, but not now.
Yes is 2004. I think this was the last Yes tour of them all getting together.
With Wakeman.
With Wakeman. That's what makes that poster worth more.
Right.
And graphics and...
Most of the tours more recently have just been Howe and Squire.
Yeah. So that one's worth more because I think it was the 25th anniversary or something tour. But it was rare to get Rick Wakeman into the tour. So what do you think that one's worth with him?
125 to 150.
All right. Then typical other Yes tour, 214.
There's
Not worth
Squire
much.
and Howe. That's,
that's like
$30,
you said,
$40.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to get into some festival posters, which is multi-bands playing at outdoor festivals or big Sky Dome or festivals where there's more than one band. So festival posters are rare because it's only a one-day shot of these festival posters, and that venue or that concert ain't happening anymore. So this is one of my first festival posters in 1978, Canada Jam at Moseport. Not many of those posters left. A lot of people asked for them because it was like our kind of Woodstock festival. 80,000 to 90,000 people showed up at this show, and Canada Jam had all the pizzazz. It had lots of other things happening except during the concerts, like acrobats, circuses, clowns. It was a full-scale entertainment show. So what do you think this one is worth? Because
it looks like it's faded. That's been in the light probably because that Canada Jam should be bright red.
Right.
So people will notice that if you have a program or a poster or a program or autograph for that matter, anything, direct light, it's the definite enemy of all these things. So you can do a couple of things. One, you can get it UV protected.
Yeah.
Or what a lot of people do, they store it away in drawers so you can't look at it.
Right.
Just take it out occasionally. But if it's in a wall in a room where there's lights on regularly, it's going to fade like that. So probably faded like that, $50. But if it was bright and mint condition, it could be $150 to $200.
Okay, so this one is another festival poster of a lot of top country shows that I did in Carlisle.
You killed this, though. You made too many posters. So there's still a lot of these around.
But it's good graphics, although if I send it to
Waylon
Nashville...
Jennings is quite collectible, obviously, more than Ronnie Hawkins. He did start with Dylan, and he's famous for that. But probably the big sellers here are Waylon Jennings and Tammy Wynette and Carl Perkins, who's one of the fathers of rock and roll with blue suede shoes.
Tammy Wynette's pretty popular, too.
Yeah, those three.
But I've seen you had some of those posters where you got them autographed by one of the stars.
Yeah, I had Tammy Wynette signed. I had several, because to me, Carl Perkins was the best guy there, because I'm a rock and roll person. Right. And he was sort of one of the guys from the early days of rock. So I had him signed. And the Carl Perkins went up, they went for like 150 signed by him. Wynette, probably 100. Waylon, maybe 100. But definitely
I was
Carl's
foolish. I could have got them all to sign. Actually, Steve did get them all to sign one poster, but I don't know whatever happened to that one. But okay, we'll go to some other ones.
Steve took it.
This is a good one because it's got Rush in it.
You can see it's similar to the Canada Jam because it was some of the same people running it, right?
Yep, yeah, the Cal Jam people I worked with in Chicago there, and Rush was there, and it was a big show at the stadium. The funny part about this stadium is after that show, the Toronto Blue Jays came in and played, and the field was still so bad from us having that festival that the Yankees were coming in next, and the game was canceled and awarded to the Yankees. So for the first time, rock and roll gave the Yankees a win because Chicago couldn't get their field together because of the two major concerts. They had us, and there was a group a couple of weeks earlier. So that ended concerts in that stadium.
That's just another version of it.
Yeah.
That one, yeah.
All right. Now, this one is a poster I made. It's a concert that never ended, and I can't believe they've never made posters of this one because it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame concert in Cleveland. And this thing had like 50 bands playing. It went till 2:30 in the morning. It was like the concert that never ended because it started like at noon, and still at 2:30 they were still playing. So it's just a collection of a rare, unusual concert, not worth much because it's just a photocopy, but it was showing all the bands. And one of the best bands there was Booker T and the MGs. And the funny part is Little Richard, he would never get off the stage. We had to kind of haul him on because he keeps singing forever. But it's more of a history poster than anything. Next one. That's same as the last one, just a little more graphics of all the stars that played at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I haven't seen this one.
This one was actually out of a magazine.
Oh, was it?
And I just saved the magazine because it had the lineup of all the bands and some graphics.
Yeah, they should have made posters like that. You know what? They might now. They may have retroactively because the Hall of Fame's much more famous. This was the day it opened, the weekend it opened. So they may actually sell them there now as limited editions.
So these were good to keep because it was a historical event with lots of famous bands.
Anything
playing.
from that is quite collectible. The programs, T-shirts, everything.
Okay. Now this was our famous Toronto Festival concert at this was Skydome, right? Yeah. Well, there was two. One at Skydome, one at Air Canada. And I think wasn't this for the Czars thing that happened?
I can't remember. It possibly could have been.
Yeah, because the Stones did one, and then in the fall, our Canadian bands got together and did another one.
Though.
June.
Particular one.
So, but it had a good collection of bands. And these,
I was at the show. I just can't remember what it was for. It's for Toronto, whatever that is.
Next one. Now this poster, I don't really have many.
That's
more
really a handbill. Did you make a poster?
No, I made posters.
Oh, you made posters? Because I have quite a few of the handbills, which look the same. They're just handbills are often a miniaturized version of the poster, and you made a handbill similar to this poster.
Yeah, but it was the start of the Tragically Hip's tour. In fact, this was what made the Tragically Hip big, and then made them do their roadshow tour.
The first major when they were paying the 25,000, 30,000 people.
And after that show, they walked around into the crowd and into the camping and into the Arts and Crafts Center. So the next year they said, we want to do a roadshow tour. And they just hit fairgrounds after fairgrounds across Canada and made it an outdoor festival tour. And this was their most port show with the Tragically Hip. I don't know how much this one's worth, but it had a lot of bands on it. About 80,000 people, I think, showed up at that one.
I went to... They did several on the Canada Day, July 1st. This one's actually July 12th to 14th. This is one of the earliest ones they did at Mossport Park. Right. And, it's probably $60 to $70 for that poster. Okay. Deep
Purple poster. Only reason this poster is worth a lot is because Deep Purple fans look for Deep Purple posters. This was done in Oakville. In fact, this was a site where the next year the police picnic was there.
I remember the tornado rolling in.
Yes.
A couple roadies got hit.
And some big security guards were getting lifted up, holding the torch. Yeah, and one guy got hit by lightning at this show. But this was done at the Ukrainian Park in Oakville.
Their kids' camp. Kids' camp.
And then the next year became the police picnic site. And then that was it for the police picnic because the mayor didn't like rock and roll coming to Oakville. And he scared the church away from doing rock and roll shows. A good classic rock show. Yeah, this is the Great Lakes Jam. Was a great collection of classic rock arts. Eventually we'll have a video out on this show. But The big ones, Joe Walsh was great. Alice Cooper really did a stellar performance. And it was one of the last rare shows of Steppenwolf and Spencer Davis. So
this is one where Alice Cooper wouldn't let you come backstage until he was in full makeup.
Oh, yeah. He was like
which is weird because you can watch him on the Golf Channel playing all the time with no makeup on, but he didn't want anyone coming backstage in his area where his trailer was until he was in full makeup. Yeah. It was a great show he put on that night.
All right, let's go to the next one. Of course, this is the most classic show at Mostport. Heat Wave. This helped make New Wave big in Canada. In fact, I would say out of the 90,000 people that were at this show, half of them were Americans because they liked this lineup of the Clash, the B-52s, the Kings, the Pretenders. And one of the other bands that showed up on this show was Teenage Head. Were invited to play at this show.
Well, they replaced the Clash.
Yes, on that end. Hey, Glenn.
Wolf, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I brought you a whole bunch of more rock and roll stuff to show you. And as I told you before, when you have over 10,000 rock and roll items, this is the place, Glory Day Collectibles, that you bring your stuff to find out what it's worth, whether it's passes, tickets, T-shirts, programs, posters, and other rock and roll memorabilia. Glenn's group, they analyze it. They tell you whether it's a real autograph, a fake autograph, a good poster, a good program, or whether they're copies.
If I'll get lucky, I'll find a joint in this pocket. No, nothing. Too bad. It's always good. You never know when you find drugs from one of the roadies.